Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel at Beyond Borders Teaching. My name is Selena. So as promised, I said that I'm going to introduce a new mini-series called Money Matters, where we discuss different things with aspects of money when becoming an international teacher, some things you may not have considered, as well as some things you may be experiencing now, and how we can rise to the occasion and get through and persevere and come out of those financial challenges, financial hills, whatever you want to call it. So in this episode, I wanted to talk about possibly the money shock many of you may have faced when starting your first year or first couple of months if this is your first year here in the United States. So we'll be discussing things like the culture shock with regards to the salary and the cost of living when deciding to make this choice. So this is for persons who are considering becoming an international teacher. So there'll be a lot of information in this mini-series for you to consider, as well as the persons who are already here, how we can navigate the finances and make the money work for us. So these are some points that I'm going to share on in this episode. US salaries seem high on paper, but what it is in actuality of being in the US, the guilt of sending money back home versus personal goals you may have came up with, comparing the currency, which is something I think I did a lot my first year, comparing the currency here, converting it to my home currency, feeling behind because of course, things you may not have considered, loans with regards to car payments, rent, etc., as well as the culture shock around those things, the fear of not making it, and that age-old question, did I make the right choice? So we're going to discuss some of these things in this episode. I know everyone's story is different and will be different. That's why I always invite you all, share down below. However, this is my story. So before coming to the US, of course, they would have told us what we'll be getting paid. So converting it back to my currency, I was like, wow, that's going to be a lot of money. Of course, and my husband and I did do our research to see how much would we have to pay for renting our apartments, how much would be a car, all of those things. And it still looked like it made sense on paper. So coming up here with that expectation, we had the confidence, we felt it would be okay. However, in getting to the US, this is not to discourage anyone, this is just my personal story. Of course, your salary, whatever your salary may be, you then will have to factor in money to pay for your rent, money to pay for the car you will have to purchase. Depending on the state you work in, you may have to purchase a vehicle. The state I work in, it doesn't really have a great transportation system for me to get to school and all of that, so I had to purchase a car. Then paying things such as the health insurance. If you come up as a spouse, it's a significantly higher amount than if you were to come up single, as well as paying things like your car insurance. And of course, if you are new to a place, you do have to factor in getting furniture. So I would say for my first month, I slept on a blow-up mattress until I was able to afford a bed and, buy the other things like a couch set, a sofa set, a dining room set, etc. Because most of the times your apartments come with the basic appliances, such as the refrigerator, stove, microwave. Some of them may have an in-unit washer and dryer, some may not. So generally, you may just have to buy things like, as I said before. So all of those things added a additional financial, problem. Now, for the programs, they were willing to give us a grant to help, offset some of that cost in the beginning. But it's not free money, of course. Now, for the rest of my first year, because I did take the grant, I had to pay back monthly to reimburse for the money that they loaned me to get started. So that was challenging, being new to the place and all the additional financial things that I didn't factor in. So plan your budget. Once you know how much you are being paid, those are some of the things to consider. How much is it going to cost for rent, car, insurance, and after you work out all the numbers, decide if it will be a good fit for you coming up here to deal with those realities. Of course, now those are the heavier aspects of coming here. Those are the things you're going to need to pay: your internet, your PWC bill, that's for electricity, water, sewage, etc. your car notes, your insurances, your rent. Those are the things you're going to need to pay. Then you, of course, you'll have to factor in things like your groceries. What is it going to cost for you to eat, for your entertainment, for whatever if you plan to travel to go somewhere during your vacation time. All of those things, as well as costs to take into consideration to really see how best to budget your money. I like to say, if you don't make a plan for your money, it doesn't last, it doesn't stay with you. So make sure you have that plan. It's definitely something you must do before coming. Work out your budget. Know how much they're going to pay you, and then you can work your budget even before you say yes to taking the job. Something they do here, in my home country, I would have had 12 years in service before coming to the United States, because in my home country, they factor in the time that I started teaching, which was 2 years prior to college, then the 4 years in college, and then coming out of college would have made it 12 years total. But in the US, they only look at the time in which you would have had your degree and started teaching. So when I came to the US, I only had 6 years experience because I would have graduated in 2016. So that's the time they would have paid me for, just that 6 years, not the 12 years. And in some states, you are fixed. There's no increase in your salary when you would have made it to 15 years. So North Carolina is one of those states. So that's something to also take into consideration. In my first year, there was some guilt I felt about sending money back home. Now, no one placed pressure on me. I placed pressure on myself, but it wasn't necessarily pressure. It was part of my goal. Of course, coming to the US to grow professionally, all of that, yes, but also part of it was my goal to have more financial independence and be able to support my loved ones at home. So the first year was a bit challenging to do that, like I would have explained all the various things that you may not think of, but I would have needed to get to now feel at home here in the US. So that would have presented a little kickback in regards to making that goal of making sure I can support my family at home. So communicate, that's my golden rule. And it's not that you need to tell everyone or your family members everything, but I'm sure, you just let them know what is it like now for you and all the things that you have to be spending money on in adjusting to the life in the US. Another aspect was converting currencies mentally. Now, I did that, I would say, for probably my first month or two. Sometimes you pick up an item and it's like $10, let's say US, and you're in your mind, wow, $10, like that means, for me in Trinidad, it's 6 to 1 or 6.8 to 1. So you convert that in your mind like, oh my God, this is $70 for this item, I'm rounding up. So that was something to have to get used to know that a dollar is a dollar no matter where you go. So I can't be converting what is a dollar in my home country to what is a dollar here in the US. And now I'm making US money, so I have to focus on the currency that I'm using. I know sometimes it can feel heavy, that financial burdens of thinking of the loans and the various things now you have to pay. For some of us in our home country, we already owned our car, we already owned our homes, or whatever the case is. And now coming to the US, now we have to start over and now have to be in loans, having loans and debts for various things. What I want to say is be smart. With money, I've always said, is not necessarily about making more, it's about what do you do with what you have. So be cautious about the loans you want to take to decide if this is a purchase that you need to make. Is it something that's going to serve you in the long run? Now, through our Padlets, based on whoever is your sponsor, whoever you came up with, you can find great things by teachers who are returning to their home countries. And I would say that's a good place where you can start to buy things that are affordable, that can help you maintain your finances and grow your finances. So you may not necessarily want to get something new. If you want to, of course, make yourself happy. However, I always say think about the long run. You don't want to try to accumulate too many debts, too many things that you have to be paying loans for, because then you're just working to pay bills and nobody wants that. So just be smart about your spending. I would say for me, there was a culture shock with regards to the cost of a car, the cost of rent, especially when you have to pay deposits. Those things were I would say, the big part of the budget for when you get your salary. Now, rent, depending again on the state you're in, I would say North Carolina is one of those low cost of living states, but rent still can be anywhere from between 800 to 1,000 too, even higher than that. Of course, it depends on how many bedrooms, baths, that type of thing you're taking, whether you're going with an apartment, if you're going with a standalone home, all of those things factor into the cost. And with the rent, usually the companies want at least half, or if not double the payment. So if your rent is $1,000, they're going to want $2,000, and they hold on to that $1,000 deposit for when you leave. If there are no damages, you get back the 1,000. If there are damages, they will take out from that 1,000 that they are holding. So that was a nuance for me, as well as the car payments. Try to get something that will, of course, be good to get you from where you need to go, get you to and fro. However, you want to try and pay a low payment. I would say, me personally, I felt taken advantage of in terms of my car purchase. My APR was 10 point something percent, but not knowing as much just yet, I got taken advantage of. So I would say, make sure when you are purchasing a car, you go with someone who knows the system, who knows about buying cars and how to get you the best deal possible. Because sometimes these car dealerships they don't have your best interest at heart, and they may take advantage of you, especially being new to the country, not a citizen, not a resident. They can tell by your accent, your mannerism, and then they may take advantage of you. So that was my truth. I hope it's not yours, but of course, if it's one thing I would say I find affordable in the US is food. Now, everyone's budget is different. For me, as I would say roughly $30 a week on food. But of course, it all depends on what you're cooking. And this is just me talking about if I'm just cooking for myself. So that gets me food for the week. I usually meal prep on Sundays. So on Sundays, I would cook my meal and pack it for the 5 days. Or I may grab a salad at the grocery or whatever if I don't feel like eating the same thing for all 5 days. But usually I don't mind. And I would have a fruit, as well as I'll get a healthy snack. So my lunch is covered for the 5 days. Now, some persons prefer to purchase food. That's okay. But then again, that adds the increase in that budget. Because when you purchase food, that may run you $20 or more, because to pay for the food, then of course to pay DoorDash or whoever to bring it to you, because you will know, it was a shock for me, you can't leave your school and get lunch. So the lunch will have to be delivered to your school. You have to tip the driver, so therefore it amounts to over $20. If you're doing that every day, of course, you're going to see how quickly that adds up. So for me, I cook, I meal prep, and pack my lunch kit, and I'm good for 5 days. And that really helps me save more money with me budgeting in food costs in terms of how I shop. So that's something if you're coming alone or if you're coming with someone, your family, you can need to think of when deciding your budget. I know the fear of not making it for some of us who are listening and considering it may be real, or persons who are already here who might be asking themselves, did I make the right choice coming? I'll tell you, of course, it all depends on what's happening to you or with you. But at the same time, I want you to believe that you can change things, that you create your own reality. Now, I've heard Judge Lynn Tola, I believe, said this before. She said, if you don't understand money, you will never have money. And like I said before, I always believe, if it's not necessarily about making more money, it's about what are you doing with what you have. Because really and truly, that alone is within your control. Now, as international teachers, we don't have the flexibility to do other jobs. We can only do the job we are assigned to our sponsored school, the school our sponsors put us in, that county or whatever. That's the only job we can do. So it's not that we can necessarily make more money. So what can you do with what you already have? So that's why I say, write a budget out, see what are some things you can cut back on for those persons who are already here, and those persons who are considering coming. You're in a great spot as well. You can, from now, put down all those things like I talked about to see if it makes sense for you. But I want to encourage you all in this series that it is possible for if your goal coming to the US to teach, one of them is to financial growth. It is possible. I'm going to share with you stories for me that have been quite successful, me coming to the US with my finances, as well as I will also have other persons who can share their success stories as well. So it is possible, and I encourage you all to stick around for this mini series. So I would like to encourage you all, of course, to like, follow, share, and subscribe. I hope you all were able to take away something from today's lesson, and I do hope that whatever I said helps you all in some way, as well as gives you all some hope. I look forward to sharing more things in these episodes to come, my mini series on money. And as always, any questions, please share down below. Any stories you want to give someone for inspiration, share down below. And as always, thank you for tuning in, thank you for listening, and have a fantastic rest of your week. Bye.